The Power of Momentum: How Tiny Actions Build Massive Results, by David Russo. Introduction: The quiet force behind big change. There's a strength greater than raw talent, more dependable than bursts of motivation, more steady than moments of inspiration. It doesn't make noise. It doesn't chase attention. It doesn't demand recognition. It works silently. That force is momentum. Momentum is the unseen driver that converts small, repeated actions into extraordinary outcomes. One push-up, done daily, becomes strength. $1 set aside regularly becomes stability. One page written each day becomes a finished manuscript. The mistake most people make is underestimating small steps. On their own, they seem trivial. But momentum isn't impressed by size, it responds to repetition. Failure rarely comes from a lack of intelligence or ability. More often, it comes from stopping too early. People quit before momentum has time to compound. This audiobook will show you how to activate and sustain that quiet force, how to apply the Snowball Principle across every area of life, how to trade short-lived motivation for lasting forward motion, how to build on small wins to accelerate progress, how to measure and safeguard your growth, how to avoid subtle habits that sabotage consistency, how everyday examples reveal the power of compounding effort. Momentum isn't about moving fast. It's about moving steadily in the right direction. Small actions, repeated consistently, create something unstoppable. When momentum works for you, it carries you farther than motivation ever could. Ordinary decisions begin producing extraordinary outcomes. So take the first step. Make it small. Make it imperfect. Just make it today. The life you want won't be built in dramatic leaps. It will be shaped quietly, steadily, and intentionally. And once momentum begins, it becomes very hard to stop. Chapter 1. The first push is the hardest. Every meaningful change begins with friction. Imagine trying to move a car that has stalled. The first shove feels overwhelming. The tires resist. The weight feels immovable. But keep pushing and something shifts. Slowly, then steadily, the car starts to roll. Once it's moving, maintaining motion requires far less effort. That's how momentum works. Beginnings feel difficult not because you lack ability, but because you're fighting inertia. Most people give up at this stage. They interpret resistance as failure instead of a natural part of starting. The solution is simple. Forget perfect. Forget impressive. Focus on starting. One push-up, 5 minutes of reading, one honest conversation, $1 saved. The size of the action doesn't matter nearly as much as taking it. Momentum demands initiation, not intensity. Starting small isn't weakness, it's strategy. Small actions are easier to repeat, easier to sustain, easier to grow. Each one adds energy to the system you're building. Yes, the first push is the toughest, but it's also the turning point. Without it, nothing changes. With it, everything can. Lower the bar if you must. Make the step so small it feels almost insignificant. Then begin and allow momentum to carry you forward. Chapter 2. The Snowball Principle. Imagine a snowball resting at the top of a hill. At first, it's tiny, hardly noticeable. But, as it rolls, it gathers more snow, more mass, more speed. Eventually, stopping it becomes nearly impossible. Habits behave the same way. A few minutes of practice becomes skill. Skill builds confidence. Confidence opens doors. Doors lead to transformation. But snowballs don't grow on flat ground. They require direction. Without focus, effort spreads thin. With direction, effort compounds. Every small action adds to a growing force that becomes larger than the individual pieces. Ask yourself, what slope am I choosing? The direction of your daily habits determines where your momentum leads. Each decision nudges the snowball. Start small but start intentionally. Choose the direction that aligns with your goals. Then keep going. Once momentum builds, it outlasts motivation. And as it grows, stopping becomes harder and harder. Momentum amplifies the path you're on. Choose wisely. Then let consistent action multiply your progress. Chapter 3. Consistency is more powerful than intensity. Motivation surges. Momentum accumulates. One extreme workout won't reshape your body. One marathon study session won't define your career. One generous act won't transform a relationship. But repeated small efforts will. Intensity draws attention. Consistency changes outcomes. Recently, we had several feet of snow, the kind that buries driveways and humbles snowblowers. Even the machines couldn't clear parts of it. I shoveled for 5 straight hours. It wasn't heroic. It wasn't impressive, but my body handled it, not because I'm special, but because I work out twice a week. Nothing extreme, no brutal training sessions, just consistent effort, week after week. A friend of mine faced the same storm. He told his wife confidently, "Don't worry, I got this." A few hours later, he had thrown out his back. He knows he's overweight. He knows he doesn't exercise. But in that moment, intensity tried to replace consistency, and his body paid the price. That day reminded me something important. You don't rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your preparation. The storm didn't create the outcome. It revealed it. Consistency is quiet. It doesn't look dramatic in the moment. To work out a week doesn't feel life-changing. Saving a small amount each month doesn't feel powerful. Writing 1 page a day doesn't feel impressive. But when life demands effort, when opportunity appears or adversity strikes, the preparation shows. The real power of consistency is that it compounds quietly. Growth often happens out of view. Results trail behind effort. That delay is where many people lose faith. They expect immediate returns, and when they don't see them, they quit. But progress is often invisible at first. Seeds grow underground before they break through the surface. Consistency may not look exciting. It won't earn applause, but it builds capacity, and capacity determines performance when it matters most. Transformation rarely comes from one dramatic leap. It emerges from small actions repeated long enough to create unstoppable forward motion. Shift your focus away from dramatic bursts. Focus on showing up again and again. Because when the storm comes, and it always does, you won't perform beyond your habits. You will perform at them. And in the long run, consistency outweighs talent and outperforms motivation. Chapter 4. The Patient's Advantage. We live in a culture that prizes immediacy, fast delivery, instant entertainment, quick results. But meaningful achievement unfolds slowly. Momentum rewards those willing to wait while continuing to act. When you choose to save rather than spend, practice instead of scroll, build quietly instead of boast loudly, you are choosing the long-term path. You're favoring sustainable growth over quick gratification. Patience isn't passive, it's active endurance. It's disciplined effort combined with delayed reward. Behind every enduring success story lies patience. Society celebrates speed and overnight wins, but most lasting achievements are the result of steady, unseen work. Progress builds gradually until it suddenly feels unstoppable. Consider a farmer planting crops. He cannot rush the harvest. He waters regularly, removes obstacles, and trusts the process. Over time, growth comes not from urgency, but from consistency and care. Your goals follow the same principle. Every daily action is a seed. Each time you choose long-term value over short-term pleasure, you strengthen momentum. Patience gives you an edge. Those who cultivate it understand that slow compounding always outperforms flashy bursts. In the long run, steady builders win. Chapter 5. Reinvesting your efforts. Momentum doesn't merely expand, it accelerates when reinvested. Learn something new. Put it into practice. Earn extra money. Allocate it wisely. Gain insight. Apply it immediately. Each small success can become fuel for the next one. Many people consume their gains instead of building on them. They hit a milestone and pause. They improve slightly and relax. They celebrate but fail to leverage their progress. Momentum flourishes when you reinvest. Every improvement is raw material for greater growth. Skills, habits, and resources can all compound when used deliberately. Ask yourself, how can today's progress strengthen tomorrow's results? That single question separates linear growth from exponential advancement. Reinvestment doesn't require dramatic moves. It requires intentional continuation, using what you've built as the foundation for what comes next. That's how one push-up becomes lasting strength. One saved dollar becomes security. One written page becomes a completed book. The more you reinvest, the faster momentum builds. Each action multiplies the next. Momentum is a force, but only if you keep feeding it. Guide it forward. Use each gain as the starting point for another step, and watch how small, consistent effort transforms into something extraordinary. Chapter 6. Tracking your forward motion. What gets measured grows. Momentum is no exception. Tracking your actions isn't about perfection. It's about visibility. When you record progress, your workouts, your savings, your hours of practice, your pages written, you create awareness. Awareness fuels improvement. Awareness protects momentum. Even small wins, recorded consistently, create a psychological force that keeps you moving. You start to think, I don't want to break the chain. That thought alone becomes a guardrail against procrastination, distraction, and doubt. Tracking also reveals patterns. It shows what's working and what isn't. It turns vague effort into concrete evidence of growth. Without tracking, momentum can slip through your fingers unnoticed. With it, every action adds to an undeniable record of forward motion. Think of it like a compass. You may not feel the progress every day, but the numbers, the notes, the check marks, they show you direction. They prove that forward movement is happening even when it feels invisible. Momentum is fragile in the beginning. Tracking is a way to protect it, to make the invisible visible. It keeps you accountable to yourself and strengthens the habit of consistency. The simple act of recording your efforts daily transforms small actions into a chain of achievements. It turns movement into momentum. It turns intention into results. Start tracking. Watch your snowball grow. Celebrate every small proof that you are moving forward, because momentum, once seen, becomes impossible to ignore. Chapter 7. Avoiding growth killers. Momentum is fragile, especially in the beginning. Certain habits quietly destroy it, often without you even realizing. Perfectionism delays starting. Comparison drains motivation. Distraction fractures focus. Inconsistency resets progress. All or nothing thinking turns minor setbacks into full-blown collapses. These are the hidden enemies of forward motion. They attack your momentum silently, chipping away at your progress until you wonder why you feel stuck. The antidote is simple, but not easy. Take imperfect action. Focus your attention. Forgive yourself after mistakes. Restart immediately. Momentum doesn't demand flawless execution. It demands continued movement. Fall down. Shrink the action. Start smaller. Take the tiniest possible step to get moving again. That is often enough to reignite momentum. Think of momentum as a rolling snowball. Drop it on a smooth path and it keeps moving. Drop it into a pit of doubt, distraction, or unrealistic expectations, and it stalls. Protect the roll. Guard your energy. Protect your focus. Avoid the traps that slow progress. Don't compare your beginning to someone else's middle. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't let distraction steal your forward motion. Momentum is built one step at a time. The moment you stop protecting it is the moment it slips away. Guard it fiercely. Move, even imperfectly. Keep rolling, because the path to lasting growth isn't about avoiding mistakes, it's about refusing to stop despite them. Chapter 8. Everyday compounding in action. Extraordinary results rarely come from dramatic breakthroughs. They come from ordinary actions, repeated consistently over time. Consider the teacher who reads 10 pages a day. In a single year, that's over 3,600 pages, dozens of books. Or the employee who improves one skill each quarter. In 2 years, they become indispensable. Or the person who invests a modest amount each month. Over time, small contributions grow into financial security, even wealth. None of these people relied on luck. None needed to go viral. They depended on momentum. They trusted the compounding power of repeated, small actions. Compounding is the secret engine behind momentum. Every small choice builds on the last, and over time, the results multiply in ways that seem almost magical but are entirely predictable. Your daily habits, no matter how minor they feel, are the building blocks of future success. Every page written, every dollar saved, every moment of focused practice is a tiny snowball rolling down your hill. At first, progress seems slow, invisible, almost meaningless, but consistency transforms it, and eventually, the growth becomes unmistakable, unstoppable. The extraordinary is often just the ordinary, repeated long enough. So, embrace the small actions. Trust the process. Commit to compounding in your own life, because momentum doesn't need perfection. It needs persistence, and persistence, consistently applied, turns the simplest routines into extraordinary outcomes. Chapter 9. Identity and Momentum. Momentum doesn't just change what you do. It changes who you are. At first, you may see yourself as someone who tries to exercise, someone who attempts to save money, someone who occasionally writes. But as momentum builds, your actions begin to shape your identity. You're no longer a person who tries. You become someone who does. You're not saving money. You're an investor. You're not writing sometimes. You're a writer. You're not trying to work out. You're an athlete. This is the power of identity-driven momentum. Once your habits become part of who you are, action becomes natural. It no longer requires daily willpower or bursts of motivation. It is no longer a negotiation. It is simply how you operate. I saw this play out in an unexpected way during college. There was a season when my friends and I were obsessed with a football video game. We didn't play casually. We competed relentlessly. Dorm room tournaments, brackets taped to the wall, trash talk that lasted for days. When teams were eliminated, the night would end with 2 remaining players. Our version of the Super Bowl. We even staged halftime shows just to make it bigger than it needed to be. I played constantly, not because I planned to master it, not because I thought it would matter someday. I just kept playing. Repetition turned into instinct. Instinct turned into dominance. Over time, I became very good. Eventually, I transferred colleges for my major. New campus, new environment, new roommate. One night, he was playing that same game with his friends. He admitted he didn't really play much. When he asked if I wanted to join, I shrugged and said, "I don't really play either." He smiled. "Perfect," he said. "You're more my speed." He was so confident, he joked about betting his life savings. We played. I caught passes in the end zone. I sacked quarterbacks. I made moves on the digital field he had never seen before. After touchdowns, I brought back the old dorm room football dance. It wasn't luck. It wasn't arrogance. It was momentum. The hours I had invested months earlier hadn't disappeared. Just because I changed campuses, the skill was still there. The repetition had wired it in. What started as a game had quietly shaped my ability. Momentum doesn't evaporate when your environment changes. It travels with you. That's what identity-driven habits do. They become embedded. They become automatic. They become part of you. Small actions build habits. Habits shape identity. Identity drives further action. It's a reinforcing cycle that grows stronger with each deliberate step. The goal isn't to force yourself to behave a certain way forever. The goal is to become the kind of person for whom these behaviors are normal, for whom discipline is default, for whom consistency is standard. When your identity aligns with your goals, momentum no longer feels like effort. It feels natural. So start acting like the person you want to become, even in the smallest ways. Show up. Take the tiny steps. Repeat them, because one day, without even realizing it, you won't be trying anymore. You'll simply be who you practiced becoming. Chapter 10. Becoming Unstoppable. There comes a moment when momentum takes over. Effort feels lighter. Opportunities appear more frequently. Skills sharpen. Confidence stabilizes. This is compounded momentum at work. It doesn't mean life becomes easy. Challenges still come. Obstacles still appear. But forward motion becomes your default setting. Setbacks are temporary pauses, not permanent endings. You no longer fear starting over, because you know how to build again and build faster. Momentum makes you unstoppable not because you're perfect, but because you keep moving. The smallest steps compound into unstoppable force. Every action reinforces the next. Every habit strengthens the chain of progress. You begin to see the extraordinary in the ordinary. Small wins snowball into major achievements. Tiny choices create massive results. And every day, your confidence grows not from sudden breakthroughs, but from the steady proof of your own persistence. The world measures success by speed. Momentum measures it by consistency. It doesn't reward the sprint. It rewards the steady push. And once you've built enough momentum, even life's toughest challenges become manageable. Becoming unstoppable isn't about avoiding failure. It's about learning to keep rolling, to protect your momentum, to reinvest your wins, and to trust the process. Once momentum carries you, you realize something remarkable. You are no longer at the mercy of motivation, chance, or circumstance, you are moving forward, always, and nothing, not fear, not doubt, not delay can stop you. Conclusion: start small, stay moving. Momentum is quiet. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't make headlines. It doesn't feel dramatic, but it works. Tiny actions, repeated consistently, become massive results. One push-up leads to strength. One saved dollar leads to security. One page written leads to a finished book. The actions themselves may seem insignificant, but momentum multiplies them in ways that feel almost magical. The key is simple. Start embarrassingly small. Reduce the goal until it feels almost easy. Then protect it, track it, reinvest it. Be patient with it. Momentum rewards persistence. It rewards the patient, the consistent, the deliberate. It doesn't care about perfection. It cares about continued motion. Every small step you take is a seed. Every tiny effort is a snowball rolling down your hill. Over time, those small actions become unstoppable force, and one day, you'll look back and realize something extraordinary. The life you once hoped for was built quietly, consistently, and deliberately by the tiny actions you almost underestimated. So start today. Take that first push. Show up, no matter how small. Keep moving. Protect your momentum, because once you start, and once you keep going, there is no limit to what you can achieve. Push forward, stay moving, and let momentum build the life you've always imagined.